Well, good afternoon, good morning, or good night, wherever and wherever you are. We are back for episode 21 of Text2. Another exciting episode of Text2, the show that discusses the best of everything tech, computers, gaming, science, home theater, and more. I am Mark Murrin.
And I'm Dylan.
Oh, there you are. I thought we lost you there for a second.
Yep.
Somewhere in the Skype ether out there. All right, so we definitely still have Dylan. Welcome back to the show, Dylan.
No problem. Just following up on some breaking news.
Aha, we'll get to that in a second. But one of the first news stories, we have a lot of news this week. Of course, Windows 8 being the big topic yet again, and it will continue to be the big topic at least for the next 2 months and into the near future. One of the first things, we always usually talk about recent polls that we threw up on the Text2 website, and the website, by the way, is tech-stew.com if you don't already know that for some reason. And recently Microsoft unveiled their Outlook.com, and based on that, we threw up a little poll, informal poll, asking which email provider do you currently use. 61% say Gmail. Hotmail came in second at 23.1, and iCloud 7.7, and other at 7.7. Nobody polled responding to Zoho Mail or AIM Mail or Yahoo, so it wasn't out there for a long time, informal poll. But Outlook looking a lot better than the old Hotmail interface, so perhaps Hotmail will gain some ground on the Gmail people out there in the coming days here. So we're going to move on and see what's cooking in the tech stew this week, so fire up the news stories.
Program complete. Enter when ready.
And our first news story is a breaking story that just came out like minutes ago. OnLive is reportedly shutting down. A new company in its wake possibly coming out of that called Instant Action. But after a strong showing at E3 in partnerships with companies like Ouya and OnLive is reportedly closing down with an entire staff layoff as a possible result, although this isn't real clear just yet. It feels like a similar rise and fall of Instant Action, which was attempting to pull off something similar with cloud-based gaming. Now, whether that's going to be like a spin-off here or not yet remains to be seen. Polygon is reporting the story as relayed to the site by game developer Brian Fargo. OnLive responded with, "We don't respond to rumors and have no comment," of course. Our OnLive contact that this news article pointed out also used an opportunity to plug its Google TV tie-ins and a few giveaways. So it didn't seem like initially anything was changing there. But later on, OnLive clarified again, saying they had no comment on the news other than to say the OnLive service is not shutting down, but they could not be more specific. Martin Williams from IDG reported there were employees leaving the OnLive offices with moving boxes, and other sites are indicating that OnLive is actually filing for bankruptcy. So the future of OnLive shockingly looks unknown and unclear. They had just become announced as being available or will be available on the Ouya console, so unclear what all this is going to mean in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. I couldn't really see if... I mean, it's hard to tell really how they're doing, obviously, but, apparently not well. Regardless of what their future is purchased or not, it seems like they're getting rid of a lot of their employees, which means whoever bought them is not really that interested in them, if that's what happened.
Of course, details are kind of sketchy right now, so maybe maybe it's not as bad as it seems right offhand, but if they're filing for bankruptcy, that's certainly not a good sign. I personally have liked the OnLive service and been hoping that it would pick up in popularity and grow over time. So maybe what they need is a third party that has more capital to come along and push it in a different direction, perhaps. I don't think it's the last we would see of online gaming, certainly with Ouya coming as a possible partner. But we'll wait and see what breaks down here in the news in the coming days.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I wouldn't even put it past, say, Microsoft for looking into it, because they've always been kind of interested in cloud-based software, and I know that OnLive was looking to get into that. If they didn't, I don't really recall how far that got, but I don't really expect it's them, because it doesn't seem like that would involve bankruptcy and mass layoffs if Microsoft was buying you, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't know that Microsoft would necessarily pick up on that, though, because their primary focus is the Xbox right now and the next Xbox, so it seems that would seem to be counterproductive for unless they're going to provide some sort of an online streaming option for the next Xbox. But that,
well, I mean, given
be,
one of the stories you have coming up,
yes, the next one, yeah, that's feasible.
It's not out of the question. As I said, I mean, given what they're looking at for Office and stuff, there could be some interest there as well. So, thoughts.
Yeah, and let's move on to that next story. The other exclusive here is that reportedly, and we've heard this before, but some sources are reaffirming this, that there will not be a disk drive in the next Xbox. The short version of all this is that the gaming site MCV reported that the next Xbox will not have a disk drive. There were briefings that have been issued under what MCV's sources described as the strictest NDA they have encountered. The next Xbox would have some sort of interchangeable solid-state card storage, although it's not known whether it will be proprietary or a more standard format such as SD. MCV is also saying the next Xbox is coming in 2013, of course, as we expected. Microsoft's statement says that the Xbox 360 is awesome and talked up their Kinect and other things and said the standard, we do not comment on rumors of speculation, of course. So, I don't know, an Xbox without media, well, a diskless, in particular, we're talking disk. Now, they're talking about storage space here. I don't think we're talking about the I wasn't real clear on whether they're completely referring to hard drive disk or optical disk, and I think this is saying optical.
At
least that's the way I read it.
I think that would be so dumb. Because for one thing for sure, what really helped like the PS3 take off was the fact that it was a Blu-ray player. I think a lot of people like to use those consoles as their DVD player, basically. And I mean, I think that's really adds enough value to your system to justify the drive, like right there. Because I mean, how much is the drive going to cost? Like a Blu-ray drive, they can probably get it for less than $30 added to the cost of the system. And not to mention, I mean, like when you consider how expensive it is. Like, Flash is still, what, 50 cents a gigabyte, I think I saw? I think, like, Woot had something today or yesterday. I mean, I think you're still looking at 50 cents a gigabyte for a Flash. Even if it wasn't Flash, it was a ROM. 50 cents a gigabyte when you have a Blu-ray that can do 25, that probably costs about 30 cents to press one of those. Like, I mean, you would so rapidly make that up on games, the cost of the disk drive. I mean, what I could see is that they get rid of the disk drive internally for storage, because that would force everything to go cloud-based, which, super popular these days. But, I mean, I think it would just be such a crazy decision to go to, like, basically back to the cartridge system with the console.
Yeah, and we talked about this before, what this could mean for retailers not having discs to sell anymore. But they are shifting towards digital downloads more and more, but the size of the games would just be immense for downloads. Unless, of course, Microsoft were to acquire OnLive and provide some sort of a streaming option on the Xbox, then that would certainly change things. Now, yeah, I could definitely see the hard disk being a thing of the past. They can move to an SD card and people could just add that on as a storage mechanism, not a play mechanism. But yes, the rumors here are disk being not in the system. Of course, they're rumors, and Microsoft did issue an updated statement, a more lengthy one. They said that the Xbox 360 has found new ways to extend its life cycle, including Kinect and reinventing the console. We are always thinking about what is next for our platform and how to continue to defy the life cycle convention. Beyond that, we don't comment on the rumors and speculation. That was their more elaborate response to that. So E3 in 2012, that's a ways off, or maybe even the consumer show. Well, probably not the consumer show. I don't think they're officially part of that anymore. We're a ways off from hearing the actual truth, I would think. But
yeah, I mean, I'll just be surprised if they get rid of the optical. Heck, I mean, I'm surprised that they'd even be discussing getting rid of the hard disk. I mean, to that end, maybe what they mean is they are going to be getting rid of the hard disk and switching to like a sort of SSD cache, just because load times are annoying. And so maybe they'll give you like a 64 gigabyte flash drive that you can, have a disk preload onto most of its assets or something like that.
Yeah, I can't imagine them like selling an SD card as the replacement for the game discs, because when the article talks, the rumors talk about SD and things like that, that seems to be more of storage, but yet other spins on the story seem to say disk as well, literally. Pun intended there, So I don't know.
I think the bandwidth's also probably a lot lower on an SD card. I don't recall off the top of my head, but Blu-rays read pretty fast.
Yeah. Well,
so I don't know. It's weird.
They can also probably sell an add-on. Here, we'll stream games to you. You can digitally download them, but here, buy our add-on disk drive. I hope not. That's just kludgy to have to add an add-on again.
Well, Blu-ray's only 36 megabit. I just looked it up, so that's a fast SD card can meet that.
Yeah, Voodoo's already doing Blu-ray streaming. Voodoo, I think they're called Ultraviolet, with near HD, but they're not sending Dolby HD audio. It's still DTS or standard Dolby rather, Dolby Digital, because of the high bandwidth needed for the audio portion of the Blu-ray. That really spikes the load once you start adding in the high def audio, I believe. I think we talked about that before. But let's move on to the next story, a fairly recent story here. Google says that popular sites aren't likely to get screwed by their new anti-piracy. Google seems to have gone down the ranks of SOPA here. They're facing criticism that their new policy of penalizing pirate sites might unfairly favor Google-owned YouTube. Basically, the new policy forces pirate sites like Pirate Bay and other search results to appear lower in the search results. And Google has come out to say that most of the popular sites are unlikely to be penalized. It hasn't clarified exactly why or how, though. Google told Search Engine Land that takedown requests filed against YouTube videos through YouTube's own system will be piled on top of DMCA requests to add up to one big number of infringement notices, and all of these requests have to be deemed valid by Google before they count, incidentally. So, new anti-piracy, Google starting to police. I'm not sure that I like this very much, just in concept. It goes against the whole SOPA thing that people were battling, at least on some level here.
I actually kind of have mixed feelings. I guess it depends on how much they penalize them. But I think that Google probably in part, I think they're spinning this as piracy for PR reasons. But like imagine if you go onto Google and you search Game of Thrones or something, right? So you'll find sites discussing Games of Thrones, and you'll also find sites linking pirated versions of it. And if you want the pirated version, I'm sure that you can search for it with the word torrent or something on it, and get good links and not have to deal with like a whole bunch of pirate sites getting pushed up to the top of your search results.
Well, the original full story here was that Google would begin, as of right about now, censoring sites for which it received a large number of copyright removal requests by reducing their Google site rank across their entire domain. Google's transparency report reveals that some sites used for torrenting pirated content receive more than 100,000 complaints in a month, and while Google has refused the requests of organizations like the RIAA to stop listing these sites altogether, it'll be effectively doing the same thing by pushing them down in the search results. So censorship to some degree, but yeah, if you're searching for Game of Thrones, you usually get those DCMA complaint site links not shown and things like that. So it makes searching for something legit hard to find as well. Well, although it should push the more legit sites to the top, so maybe this will be an effective.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
measure.
And if you're searching for the pirated version, I mean, you can always throw the word like torrent or download or something,
or scroll
like that
down,
on there,
way down in the list if you're one of those people.
Yeah.
So that's the story there, and let's move on to the next topic. Story is that of the Sling Player survey was hinting at a possible expansion to game consoles, and that word came from a new Sling survey obtained by That's Not Funny, which attempts to gauge customers' interest in Sling Player, an app for game consoles, specifically asking if they owned an Xbox 360, a PlayStation 3, or a Wii. Would you like to have a Sling Player on here? And so, I don't know. I personally would probably never use the thing, simply because if I have an Xbox and it's already attached to the TV, I really have no need to sling the content. Now, it comes in handy if you're in the back of your house somewhere in a far-off corner and you don't have a cable line going there or one of those remote boxes, DVRs, then you can sling the content to your Xbox or PlayStation 3 or Wii. So for those types of people, that would be pretty beneficial. And I do have a Sling box, but I don't use it that much. It kind of sits there for sports broadcasts, but never gets used unless there's an urgent necessity. But let's move on to the major topic for this week, and that is that the Windows 8 RTM is available, or was put out last on Wednesday the 15th.
No one cares about that.
No one cares about. Okay, let's move on and talk about Linux then. How about that?
Yeah.
Linux 98 is out now. Version 98. 30 years later.
Linux ME.
So the RTM came out on MSDN and for TechNet subscribers, with also a 90-day trial for everyone on the 15th. And if you go out to Text2, we have all the details on this, including the links to find all these things if you're a TechNet or MSDN person. Windows 8 was made available. Servers were bogged down initially. People couldn't even hit the site, as I found out, and as I was trying to, because we have MSDN at our place of employment. The code in these versions is the same that will be released to the general public. That's an important distinction or point to be made here. On October 26th, RTM represents the shift from development to general availability in October. This is the time where where developers start to develop drivers that may not be available yet, or update their software to make it compatible with Windows 8. And also for us tech geeks to get our hands on the latest bits and test them out. And Microsoft Software Assurance customers are going to get, they should have gotten their RTM and on the 15th, and volume license people are coming available on September 1st. I'm going to talk a moment about the 90-day trial here. So, flash up this on the screen too. This, I'll get to that in a second. But the 90-day trial edition is Windows 8 Enterprise. Now that comes in both 64 and 32-bit, as well as several languages. Actually, I'm going to put this on the screen because I think this is more relevant, although it's kind of hard to see. Yeah, it is. Enterprise comes with business options such as Windows to Go, Direct Access, Brain Cache, and Remote FX virtualization. Windows Media Center is not an option with the Enterprise, even by upgrade. A full breakdown on that comparison can be found on Text2, which actually links to the Wikipedia article, which you see on the screen, the grid showing the differences. And in particular, if we look at that grid, where's the chart here? Hold on one second. I had it here. Seems like it's not there. At least not on my link. That's odd. The biggest difference between Enterprise, of course, is what we just mentioned, the direct access, the brain cache, and I wanted to outline a little bit of what that implies with direct access. I seem to be on a different site here. That's not quite Windows. Oh, here we go. I've got it. I've got it. So yes, Windows to Go, of course, is the Enterprise feature that allows you to basically upload your operating system onto a USB stick and then put it on another device and boot to it. Direct Access is another Enterprise-only feature that you won't find in Pro or the base Windows install. That's a VPN-like technology that provides intranet connectivity to client computers when they're connected to the internet. Unlike traditional VPN, which has to be initiated and terminated by explicit user action, direct access connections are designed to be connected automatically as soon as the computer connects to the internet. And direct access was introduced with Server 2008 R2, providing that for Windows 7 clients, Ultimate and Enterprise in that case. So that's what direct access is for Enterprise customers. And then there's the Brain Cache, the other big difference here, and for Enterprise. Brain Cache is a sort of WAN optimization technology, a collection of techniques for increasing transfer efficiencies over the wide area networks. So it's a business thing. Businesses that use wide area networks will find that useful. And Remote FX is a brand name covering a bunch of technology that includes visual experience of remote desktop. Remote FX was introduced in Server 2008 R2 SP1. It's based on property that Microsoft acquired and continued to develop as part of the remote desktop services workload. It features things like the ability to present a virtualized instance of a physical GPU into multiple Windows 7 virtual machines. You get USB redirection and other codecs and video and text that can be streamed over remote connections. So this is kind of like a high-powered remote desktop ability, which is kind of cool. And those are the main differences between Enterprise and Pro and standard Windows 8. So at this time on MSDN, Microsoft hasn't provided a key for unlocking Windows Media Center features of Windows 8 Pro. Likely people who want to test MSDN and develop Windows Media Center plugins won't be able to for a while. If you click the buy button, for instance, on the Windows 8 Pro, it just says, sorry, that command doesn't compute, basically. I forget the exact error. It was an error on the wizard, so they don't have that available. And it's supposed to be $12.99, I think, for the add-on to get Windows Media when you're running Pro. You have to be running Pro to get the Windows Media. Now the final RTM of Windows 8 featured some changes that I personally like. I think it's great. I think so far it's been a really good experience. Some of them included more customization options in the start screen. There's new Bing and People apps. They got rid of Arrow, and other improvements under the hood occurred as well. And of course, the Windows Store was launched, and I'm gonna crank up my Windows. I have a. We're going to show a few screens here in a second here. Yeah, here we go. Coming online. Let me get back to this screen here so I can bring this up. I swear it's going to be great. So we're talking about the Windows Store in particular here. Now, just a note on some of the minimum recommendations for the final version of Windows 8, as it's coming out October 26th, so prepare. Microsoft, of course, recommending at least a 1 gigahertz or faster CPU, a gig of RAM for 32 or 2 gig of RAM for 64, 16 gig of hard disk space on 32-bit and 20 gig on 64-bit. DirectX 9 graphics card with WDDM 1.0 or higher is preferred there. Now for Metro, in order to have snapping working correctly, you need a minimum of 1024 by 768 and 1366 by 768 for snap. If you go anything less than that, then Metro snapping and Metro apps may not look right, or you'll get an error. And one of the big distinctions here is that you can upgrade from Windows 7, and we need to clarify some of that. And this is all on the Text2 website as well too. But basically, people who are running Windows Starter, Home Basic, Home Premium can upgrade to Windows 8, keep all their files and things intact. If you're running Windows 7 Pro or Enterprise, you can update and keep apps intact there as well. Now Vista users without SP1 can upgrade to Windows 8, but only personal files will be preserved. If you don't have SP1, then the system settings will be transferred as well. XP users with SP3 can upgrade directly to Windows 8. Of course, only personal files will be preserved, no application. So that kind of a statement that Microsoft has is a little screwy, because it's not really an upgrade. It's not an in-place upgrade like the ones I have been testing. But we can take a look at some of this here. I have Windows 8 running right here, and here is the new store. Open up the store here. This is the exciting stuff. We're getting into the Metro. Oh, we can't say Metro anymore, isn't that right, Dylan? Or did you fall asleep because you were bored with Windows 8? It's old news now. No, we have to go with the word Windows 8 styled apps. What a mouthful. I just don't get that, why Microsoft didn't go with WinRT as a better name or something like that.
Well, WinRT is the API, so I don't think they wanted to have that confusion. I mean, it's probably just Windows 8 style officially, and then everyone's just going to call it Metro.
Yeah, but if you're a developer and you put out an app that says Metro in the title, they'll kick you out. They're rejecting them as of right now.
Yeah, well, you know, as I'm saying, like, officially, sure, but unofficially, when you're actually saying it, I think Metro is probably going to stick.
Well, here we have the store, and they have a lot of, still have all their free apps. There are a few paid apps, the key word there being a few. Just take a quick glance at Wikipedia, for instance. I click the install button, that'll install in the background. Oh, I didn't put in the Microsoft account here. Hold on one second. I lost it. Hold on, I didn't sign in. Not a problem. We are signing in for action here. Alright, so they've got apps like Newegg. You'd be surprised at the amount of Metro apps that there actually are already. Some might sound useless, but a lot of them are kind of cool. You got your Newegg app here. I can click install on that one, for instance, and quick little rundown. There's some games like this Armed game, which I did try, and I won't install here because it probably won't work right in the VM. But it looked pretty good for a game, full screen game, a WinRT game. I'm saying WinRT because it's the API. You know, it's Metro, Windows 8 style, whatever. We got the Xbox Smart Glass. Now that really is showing a shift in Microsoft thinking with the Smart Glass app. Their ultimate goal here will be you'll play a game on Windows 8, and this type of technology will allow you to pick up the game on a tablet where you left off. And that's all coming, and this is all, we're in a big transitionary period here, and Windows 8 being more of mobile built first, and then Windows 7 added as a backbone, you know, the desktop experience from Windows 7 still included. Desktops aren't going anywhere, that's for sure. Desktops from Microsoft are about $350 million worth of income per year, and actually only about 25% of their sales come from consumer desktops. 75% come from the corporate world. But they recognize, I think, a change here as the world has become more mobile and tablets are becoming more popular. And as technology increases, tablets will probably eventually replace laptops, at least I think, because as the tech gets better in those tablets, you become less necessary to have a laptop, because you could simply dock a keyboard to a tablet screen that runs just as fast as a laptop, and you have everything you need right there with the Windows 8 as the starting ground here, and WinRT in particular in the tablet being kind of like going from DOS to NT or even DOS to Windows 95, but more likely the shift to the NT world. This is just Windows RT being the next NT, really. But taking a look here at the at what we've got, go back here, and let's just take a look at one of these apps here. Here's Wikipedia. Bringing open the Wikipedia app. You want to look at the Golden Toad, for instance. We'll click on the Golden Toad, and you scroll, it moves left to right. That's the biggest change here, and it would make sense, I think, if you're on a tablet especially. Since our scroll wheels don't go left to right, it seems a little weird at first. Now if I drag this window, I can move it over to the left. It'll appear there, and I click on the right. Now I'll go to the desktop. And there you go. Now we have the desktop, and we have the Golden Toad on the left, so you can continue to read about the Golden Toad while you're, say, opening up Internet Explorer over here, like so. And of course their snapping only works at 1/4 of the screen or 3/4, so you have a choice. And once you do that, then your desktop kind of becomes more of this scrolly thing over here. You can't really do much with it, which, you know, the Metro desktop, or the Metro interface combined with Metro apps and this whole snapping thing, I'm sure will evolve over time. And it works well on multiple screens. I can have 2 Metro apps open at the same time. Can't really demonstrate that here. But let's just go back. Really easy to go back and forth between your start screen and your desktop area. You just hit the Windows key, or in the case of the desktop, we go down to the lower left and we find the start button down there. I'm not in full screen on this VM, so it's a little harder to get to those corners in this case. And you scroll left and right and you see the start screen. Now the start screen really is, to me, the area where you put the things you want to use the most. This is just a test machine, so obviously it's a mishmash here. Because when you go to the All Apps view, you see the old Programs Files menu, basically. And this menu is visible on the desktop, and you can customize it like we've mentioned before, and you can find the article on Text2 of how to customize your All Apps area. Create new folders in here, move things in them. If you create subfolders, you usually won't see the subfolders underneath here. So if you had a subfolder with icons in it, shortcuts under Skype, for instance, that wouldn't show up, but the icons would. The folder wouldn't show up, but the icons would. It kind of conglomerates them all into one root level folder. And the only way you can see the changes you made in your all apps is by restarting the Explorer process or restarting your machine. I personally just restart using Task Manager, the Windows Explorer process. And then you can only pin the things you want the most out here on the start screen. And I've grown to like the start screen. I gotta be honest, after using this thing for 2.5, 3 months now, it is pretty good. You get used to it, and you get used to seeing your live updates here, which, if you live in London, you can see it's, oh no, now we're in Mumbai. 79 degrees in Mumbai right now. So, some you know, you're going to have your critics that are going to call this thing a two-headed beast and whatnot, but this is a definite transitionary operating system for Microsoft and a step in the right direction. It feels exciting, yet twisted at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. But other things to note, the delete confirmations are gone unless you're on a network drive. And there's a way you can turn that back on by checking the properties of the recycle bin. And the rumors are that there was a $200 Surface tablet coming, a Surface RT, but that can't be. More than likely, the street price of $499 will occur, and we don't know the pricing on the Microsoft Surface tablets just yet. Of course, they're coming out with Surface Pro and Surface RT, and OEMs said they don't care about RT, but really they're probably just waiting to see how it's going to be done. And the Surface for Microsoft is the reference model, you might say, and Lenovo will be launching RT tablets at launch, incidentally. So are you excited?
No.
No.
I'm not.
Oh,
I'm not going to be doing Windows 8, I imagine, really at all.
that's really unfortunate. I know you're a big Linux person, but, you know, Windows 8 is great. I gotta say, it runs brilliantly. I mean, on my laptop, I boot up in under 15 seconds. That used to take over a minute. And application snappiness is just through the roof here.
Yeah, but I have a feeling, I have a very strong feeling, really, that that's a lot to do with the fact that it's brand new install. I mean, you're going to see the problem with Windows 8 is it's still Windows, and all the things that drag down Windows are still going to drag down Windows 8. I know that they spent a lot of effort doing that, but I mean, there's only so much they can do to correct the mistakes of the past that are dragging the system down. I mean, my new Windows 7, it boots. You know, I just got a new laptop, and you know, the sucker boots under a minute. I don't even bother to time it. It's really fast. But you know, I know that in 6 months down the line, I'm going to have installed that one thing or uninstalled that one thing that is going to leave some sort of dangling COM object or some sort of folder add-on that's just going to bust the thing. You know, you know, it does remain to be seen, for sure, to see if Windows 8's fixed that, but just the nature of a lot of the things they have to deal with and that cause those problems are stuff that they're either going to break a lot of apps or it's just still going to be there. Well,
you know, you talk about snappiness and installing too many things. I did an upgrade, and the upgrade was snappy in itself, and that was with the release preview, which, by the way, I've got to mention that the release preview, you cannot upgrade from the release preview to the RTM. It won't let you. It will tell you you have to start from scratch. The same goes true if you're on Pro and you suddenly decide you want to try Enterprise. You have to start all over again, which at work I have Pro and I need to go Enterprise. I should have just waited. One thing about Enterprise too, you have a side loading of Metro apps so that you don't have to go through the App Store. So if you're in a corporate world, you have a Metro app. Yes, I'm still calling it Metro. Then you can side load the apps using Windows Enterprise Edition. But I did the upgrade and it runs brilliantly. both upgraded and fully installed, because in all three of the PCs I have the RTM running on now, I have installed everything, and believe me, I have installed everything, and I have a lot of stuff, and I've organized the start screens and did some basic timings, and it is a lot faster on the surface, at least at this point. So I'm pretty happy about it, and the file history is cool, but we still need a dedicated backup. They don't have an imaging tool that I have found, and it doesn't look like there's an add-on for one. Paragon Tools, incidentally, offers a free imaging ability. If you're an Acronis user, you'll find that Acronis does not work. You can browse images, but frequently they time out when you try to transfer files from your old image in Acronis, and I've had VMs crash underneath of Windows 8 from trying to extract from old Acronis images inside of those VMs. So if you need files before you do your install, you should probably get them beforehand. And then Acronis is supposed to be coming out at least with version 11 of their backup and recovery patch, but I wouldn't expect that until October, at least October. So in the meantime, Paragon imaging tool is free, and you can download it from their site. So that might be the app of the week, I would have to say, for PCs and Windows. But that is, I believe that is all I've got on that topic. But I'm telling you, Windows 8 is great. People are going to hate it. People are going to love it. But, you know, Microsoft is not going away in the desktop world. And if they do, well, what are we going to switch to? We're going to switch to Linux? I don't think so. But the other rumor that has been coming about here just recently is that a faster Windows release cycle will be occurring in the future. Of course, we talked about this before, and I've said, yeah, I can see this happening. The next update for next year in the summertime for Windows 8 is called Codename Blue. Rumors, according to ZDNet's Mary Jo Foley, are that Microsoft is already working on updates to Windows 8 called Blue, due out sometime next year. It is believed it'll be an interim update rather than a full Windows 9 release, and it's unclear if this will be simply a patch or an update that adds new features, although she elaborated, and the word seems to be that whichever it is, that Microsoft is moving away from the Big Bang Windows release schedule to which it typically has adhered, and will now be attempting to move towards something more like what Apple does with point releases. So she said she'll be curious if Blue eventually gets a version number like 8.1 or 8.5 even. And it's possible Microsoft may be moving away from this 3-year cycle for big releases in favor of more frequent updates that add features. And that's the way Apple's been doing things for years. And even Apple, you know, they get people to buy new machines, but here Microsoft has gone into longer duration releases. You could expect to see Windows 8, well, at least Windows 7 for 7 to 10 years. XP's been around forever. Machines have gotten better to the point where they don't need updated as frequently, and now Windows software just sticks around. And that's a good sign, I suppose, that the software is pretty stable and lasts that long. So it's feasible to see them doing maybe little point releases every year to get new features put on. However, when Apple does releases, you're generally buying new hardware with Apple, because they don't tend to they don't like their Macintosh operating system. People pay the upgrade fees of $20 each year, and they buy a whole new machine in some cases. But usually they're focusing their updates on the portable realm. But Microsoft going into this portable construct now for the future, building Windows 8 around mobile, kind of makes sense that they would do more updates more frequently, because if they're going to be in the mobile world, they're going to need to do updates more frequently. People are going to need faster hardware sooner as well to go along with that, if it's a mobile device at least. So it's going to be interesting transitionary times, I think, for Microsoft. But clearly they're going in the right direction, even though people are going to be turned off by Windows 8 in some sense. But they were turned off when we went from Program Manager and Windows 3.1 to that of Windows 95, and people tried to make retro Program Manager apps and so forth. But so moving along, the other piece here is that SkyDrive has had an overhaul, and where are we at here? There we are, SkyDrive. Let me get rid of the golden toad here. So Microsoft tilts its corporate ship increasingly in the direction of the cloud. That's the other direction things seems to be going. It's placing more of an emphasis on the SkyDrive cloud storage area, and with the tight Windows 8 integration of SkyDrive, Office saving documents up there, and now they're trying to stream or design the web interface to look more like Metro and so forth. So you can see here in this, I've already signed into SkyDrive. They've flattened things out, made it look more Metro-y or Windows 8 styled, of course. Of course, we realize that I haven't mentioned that the whole reason why they're dropping the name Metro is because of the Metro AG European company, I think German. And they have a big alliance with them, but that company makes third-party applications, so they were all up in arms about third-party people calling their apps Metro, which is the whole reason for the whole snafu of changing away from Metro, at least in name. Well, we'll still call it Metro from time to time, I'm sure, here. But SkyDrive users can flick, if they're on a portable device, for a more detailed view of files, including dates, modified, sharing status. There's the ability to search within SkyDrive for pretty much any term now, including content within Word and other documents. And Microsoft has shifted common commands, such as creating shared folders, for example, to the toolbar that runs along the top of the SkyDrive interface. And users can select multiple files in thumbnail view and rearrange them and drop them into the appropriate folder. So like right here, if I go into Pictures, and I select this one, and I select that one, I can then pick them up and I can move them somewhere else. I'm not going to do that, but get the idea there. So SkyDrive, moving right along. And the other bit of news is the exciting one for today, for developers anyway, that RTM versions of Visual Studio 2012, TFS 2012, and the .NET Framework 4.5 are now available. And this came on the same day as the Windows 8 excitement, of course. There are download links on the Text2 website where you can get Visual Studio 2012, Team Foundation Server 2012, and the framework. Free Express tools for Windows Desktop and Windows Phone are expected later this fall, according to Microsoft Vice President Somasegar, head of the developer division. Visual Studio 2012 is the key development tool for designing these Windows 8 styled apps, formerly Metro. Visual Studio 2012 supports Office 2013 and Windows Phone 8 development, but the tools for the upcoming Office and Windows Phone platforms isn't part of the current downloads, according to Jason Zander, Microsoft Corporate VP of Visual Studio team. A preview of the Microsoft Office developer tools for Visual Studio 2012 was released last month when they introduced Office 2013 along with the new cloud app model for extensibility across client apps and the web in Office and SharePoint 2013. So Visual Studio will be the key to developers building the Metro apps that work across devices, supporting things like JavaScript, C#, Visual Basic, Python, F#, C#, C++ rather. And they'll have a virtual launch event on September 12th. Incidentally, that's the same day that the iPhone 5 is supposed to be announced. And Visual Studio 2012 requires .NET 4.5, and that's an in-place upgrade. And that causes some issues with developers with targeting .NET 4 and fixes bugs in .NET 4.5 that may cause problems in applications that run on Windows XP. Now, .NET Framework 4.5 actually requires Windows Vista SP2 or higher, either 32 or 64-bit editions, 512 of RAM, and a gigahertz CPU. And there are trials available out there for Visual Studio 2012 as well. So I have Visual Studio open here, as it would be, and let me maximize that. As you can see, they have a new look. It's the Metro sort of office-y look, and it is
hideous.
Hideous, yes. What I should point out is that, hold on, yeah, just comment on that for a second while I find an image here that we can laugh about here.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just, it's not otherwise too bad. I don't mind the grayscale. Like most people, I don't really understand the move to the uppercase menus. They really look pretty out of place and ugly and are not shared by any other thing on Windows. It's just weird. And then on top of that, they even have a hack to disable it. So it's kind of...
Yeah, we'll talk about that as the tip of the week, but we'll save that for later.
Okay, yeah, but it's, you know, very odd. Another odd one from them.
Yeah, hopefully I got the right image here. Yes, I did. Okay. So let me, yeah, there we go. Oops, wrong spot. Let me move it. There we go. When I look at this Visual Studio 2012 menu system and so forth, and the way everything is so flat and hard to read, it reminds me of Geos. Ah, yes, Geos. Many of you out there know what Geos is. I grew up on Geos on the Commodore 64 with its monochrome interface and flat appearance, as I have currently put up on the screen there. But that's what I think of when I look at the Visual Studio 2012 interface. Very retro, in the literal sense. But I'm sure the features of Visual Studio 2012 are going to outweigh some of the design aesthetics issues, and that can be adjusted as well. You can adjust things in the settings. One of the first things I noticed was that you can debug and tell it right in the play menu in the debug. Hit the play button right next to it. You can tell it which browser you want to test if you're doing a web app. Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, and so forth. Before, you had to go in and do some trickery on the side in your project settings, and now you can do it right from the debug portion, and that alone was a bonus, I thought. Just a minor little thing there. But that's Visual Studio 2012. So we're going to move on, and oh, incidentally, I should mention that if you're installing this thing and you're doing the Ultimate Edition, it needs 7.89 gigabytes of free space. Oh yes, that's a lot of space. But moving on to... Oops. Oh, no, we don't want to go there yet. Yes, where are we at? We're moving on to science. Weird science. And in the science realm, Curiosity landed on Mars successfully. It didn't blow up. It didn't crash into the surface or get dust and ruin all of his equipment. 8 years in the planning, 8 months in travel. It landed on Mars, and that was one of the first images it put out. And I'll just play the whole video loop here while we move along here. There's been a series of awesome pictures recently too. But 8 years in planning and 8 months in travel, the NASA's Mars Science Laboratory landed safely on Mars, resulting from cheers from the NASA team and around the world as people watched. Happened at 1:32 a.m. The day it landed on, I think it was, what, the 5th? Going into the 6th officially. The Curiosity rover later sent the first images from the Gale crater after landing, surviving the 7 minutes of terror as it plunged through the atmosphere. It fired off its rockets on the platform that lowered the small truck, a 1-ton rover, to the 96-kilometer-mile wide Gale crater. The platform then flew off and crash landed elsewhere, which they were able to see some remnants of that as well. And Curiosity sent a text message home saying that it had made it. And the whole descent, shown in this diagram, you can see it comes in at 12,000 miles an hour and had to shoot off the parachute to slow it down. Heat shield separates, skyrocket powered sky crane engines, fires up, sky crane lands the rover, lowers it down, and flies away just at the last second. And so the touchdown occurred of the $2.5 billion project. Doug McQuistion, director for Mars exploration program at NASA headquarters, called it the Super Bowl of planetary exploration. Scientists expect the primary mission to last at least one full Martian year, that's about 2 Earth years, and they hope that its nuclear-powered systems will keep going for years into the future. And we can compare and contrast Curiosity, you can see, compared to a person standing there, the past Opportunity, Spirit, and Sojourner rovers, that, yeah, it is one of the largest ones, using a nuclear-powered 110-watt battery. The wheels can roll over obstacles 25 inches high, travel about 660 feet in one day. It has a cam that takes high-resolution images, of course, and a robotic arm that can scan rocks. And it moves at about 0.5 miles per hour. Very slowly moving along. Next up, it spent most of its time after it landed getting things ready to move, basically, get all its systems online. They did a software upgrade, and they target the 3-mile high, 5-kilometer high mountain inside of the Gale crater, known as Aelios Mons, or Mount Sharp. The materials in the mountain could have billions of years of geological history, which could reveal clues onto its wetter and warmer past. Some believe the rover could even detect signs of present-day life, though NASA isn't counting on that necessarily. And the trip to Mount Sharp may actually take as long as 1 Earth year, as scientists want to study the Gale crater terrain in great detail. So, exciting times for the Mars program. People around the world were watching the landing. In fact, the orbiting orbiter observatory telescope spacecraft satellite took a shot of the parachute lowering Curiosity down to the ground, which I thought was rather awesome. And then the panoramic shots that have come out on the internet are pretty breathtaking. It's just like standing there. In fact, I believe I have an example of this panoramic, which is pretty sweet here. Yeah, here it is. Full screen this guy. This one I found was black and white, but you can move around left and right, view the terrain, zoom in, zoom out. Pretty impressive. And if they had a 3D option, if you were on a 3D TV, this would look pretty cool, and I'm sure they will soon enough. In the Worldwide Telescope app, they usually have some 3D stuff in there, which is pretty amazing. They've called some of this scenery Earth-like in appearance. So the whole landing represents a big event here for us in space exploration, because it was so complex and so hard to do, and we were able to pull it off. This sort of sets the standard for future missions in the future. Of course, it's a lot more complex of a task to put humans on Mars, but it still does show that we as Americans in particular still have the ingenuity and willpower to get things done, even the most complex things. So it was a momentous event. Did you take a look at any of the photos?
Yeah, I did check out that first one that they put out. Looks, you know, I mean, it's looks like a planet.
Well, yeah, when they first put out the photo, many people were like, I can take better pictures on my cell phone, you know? And I wonder, a $2.5 billion rover can't even take a clear shot, but not understanding that the systems weren't really online for downloading the images, and they had to get the lenses in the proper, the proper lenses unfurled on the craft, and once they did that, they were able to produce these types of things so far. A lot of science will come out of this. This is going to be cool. Pretty exciting. Of course, it would be really awesome to see them discover some sort of present-day water source there, but that's unlikely. It's probably under the surface. That's my take on it. That I think that there is water there, but it's deep under the surface.
I don't remember what the they did think they found that one thing where the where water would come out of the water and run down the mountains.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's close enough to like one of those sorts of sites, but you know, that's a possibility.
I don't think it was at this site, but they did. Yeah, they found pictures, time-lapse photos from the Odyssey, showing a difference, that something was moving across the surface that appeared water-like in nature. So it's there somewhere. It's just a matter of finding it, because once it hits the air, it sublimates at the extreme cold. The average temperature there being like minus 80 degrees, I think, Fahrenheit, across the entire planet. But
well, average is only mildly interesting when it comes right down to it.
yeah, well, and it's smaller too. 4,217 miles across, 7,900 miles across for the Earth. 59 degrees is the average Earth temperature, incidentally. In case anybody out there was wondering what the average temperature on Earth was, about minus 81 Fahrenheit on Mars. But there are spots where it gets up close to freezing, or just above, I believe, at certain spots on the planet at certain times of the year. But let's move on to the other science article here. Was that room temperature masers may change space communication. A team of scientists has found a way to produce room temperature solid-state masers, a major step in improving space communications. A maser is similar to a laser, except instead of using light to emit the signal, it uses microwaves. This type of technology has been important to NASA and other groups that operate in space. Masers can help boost radio signals, such as with Curiosity on Mars. Mars uses maser technology to ensure signals sent to Earth arrive. Now, until now, masers needed enormous cooling equipment to prevent overheating, but thanks to a report published in the journal Nature, hope is on the horizon. Scientists at the UK National Physical Laboratory developed a room temperature maser by accident, pretty much. They altered the chemical components of a crystal, and then used microwaves to restore them to their normal state. And in doing this, they realized that the process created a stream of identical microwaves that reduced the strain and heat required for the process. So basically a room temperature maser, which was pretty cool. Yeah, it's last week we talked a bit about the Antarctic plate movement. You missed out on that topic, but they discovered fossils of pollen in Antarctica that were about 52 million years old, and they're warning about the region being ice-free. Now, one of the questions that pops up around that is whether or not that pollen that was there actually came from continental drift. Some people were wondering this. I would think it would be possible, because as you can see, it 70 million years ago, parts of Antarctica were up a bit on the southern hemisphere compared to where they are now. And depending on the exact location of this drilling, I think they said it was on the east coast. So yeah, the east coast. Was the east coast up higher then, and that's why we're finding pollen? You know, that was just an interesting thing. I thought I would just shoot out there again this week. Did you have a chance to look at that when I had that up on the site before?
No, I didn't. I'm a bit behind on some of this news.
You're a bit behind in general, I think.
That's true.
Yeah, been living under that rock just a little too long. I'm kidding. Windows 8 just came out. It's not Windows 3.0 anymore.
Oh, yeah, I've been hearing that. How is that?
It's a lot better. It's like night and day. But, yeah, you'll find out soon enough. October 26th is coming. But I've lost track of time here. How many minutes in are we? I think we're
at about an hour. 1:05.
Yeah, the timer on the actual video stream is showing 20 hours. So I don't know. Either we have time traveled or time warped or something really weird has gone on here. But, well, anyways, I'm going to move on to the RC segment right now. So, in the RC segment, I don't have a whole ton this week, but a 500-pound model plane tests the next generation of aircraft design. Gizmodo was sponsoring this little article, or had reported on it. The design has yet to catch on with civilian air travelers. A blended wing-body aircraft hold a great promise for military operations, and to better study the innovative design, they built the next best thing, a 1 to 8.5 scale RC demonstrator. The X-48B isn't a run-of-the-mill RC plane. It's designed by Boeing Phantom Works in conjunction with the Air Force Base Research Laboratory. The X-48 has a 20-foot wingspan. It accurately mimics the structural aerodynamic properties of the blended wing concept. The trio of JetCat P200 turbojet engines propel it at 136 miles an hour and with a 10,000-foot operational ceiling and 40-minute flight duration. So that is one beefy RC aircraft, I gotta say. The X-48 concept. It was first concocted in the late 1990s by engineer McDonnell Douglas. And McDonnell Douglas merged with Boeing. Firm worked with NASA Langley Research Center to create the precursor to the X-48, a 17-foot wide propeller-driven drone that flew briefly in '97. By the time the X-48A, a 35-foot BWB, got off the ground in 2004, Boeing had effectively canceled the project. But in 2007, Boeing was back hard at work on the X-48, and lo and behold, we get the test models here in the model variety, which I think is really interesting, taking the RC concept and using it for testing aircraft. The other note relative to RC is that anti-drone laws seem to be popping up around the country, or legislation to try to have anti-drone laws that may actually impact or restrict RC hobbyists that do remote piloting of their aircrafts through goggles and other remote drone type setups. Since January 1st of this year, the Federal Aviation Administration authorized 106 federal, state, and local government entities to fly unmanned aircraft systems, known as drones, within U.S. airspace. So it's a new horizon, using unmanned aerial systems within the homeland. And House Homeland Security Chairman Michael McCall, Republican from Texas, said as he introduced the testimony here, currently there are 200 active certificates of authorization issued by the FAA to 100 different cities. Now, I've seen some of the stories related to this, and they have to fly within eyesight 400 feet and so forth, but it brings up issues of privacy and collection of data that enforcement agencies are using and so forth. A whole other realm of spin-off arguments in both directions for the use of drones, which ultimately could affect the RC community depending on what laws come into place relating to drones. At least that's the way it seems on the surface. But that won't swerve me from building my own drone. Not really a drone, just remote aircraft with some
Yeah, put a camera on it.
camera. But I'm going to move on to the picks of the week. And for this week, I've got Pitfall. Welcome back to Pitfall. This is on the iPhone, iOS. And if you've played the classic Pitfall, you will love the new Pitfall. Well, somewhat. I did. I thought it was pretty cool. It's a 99-cent game. You're not going to break the bank. It's not on Windows Phone. It's not on Android. Oh well, sorry guys. But it is on iOS, and it starts off, they show the guy, Pitfall Harry, I guess, looking at a tablet. And on the tablet, he's playing the old Pitfall game, and then he pulls away, and like the volcano's erupting. He's like, oh, a volcano, I gotta run. So then you're on rails, basically, and you swipe the screen, tap the screen to strike animals with your whip and so forth, and play out the game. Final tidbit here for the day, the tip of the day, is actually two things. One is the big menu in the Visual Studio. If you want to get rid of that all caps menu, you can. You can go to registry and find this key. You'll find the information on text2. Change it, add a value in there, suppress uppercase conversion, and put a regd word value of 1. And voila! You have lowercase menus again. Now the tip of the week was, that was one of them, of course. The other one was that of booting to the directly to the desktop. Many people would like to boot straight to the desktop in Windows 8, and Microsoft has blocked third-party tools from allowing that to occur, and rightfully so, because they're trying to avoid people doing it the old way, because they don't want you to. Now, I have posted 3 different ways on the Text2 website of how to boot directly to the desktop if you really want to. Method 1, just a short version here. You auto log in by doing netplwiz so that you don't have to put a password in. Then you use Task Scheduler, and you schedule a task to launch. How did I do this? I'm trying to look here to see. I don't remember. Like I did Windows Explorer, for instance, explorer.exe in the program script. So that would run once the person logged in a task scheduler. Of course, the other way is a script. You can create a script and call it desktop.scf, and in that script you can put the shell and taskbar commands, which will let the toggle desktop actually occur when you click on desktop.scf, or in this case the task scheduler launches desktop.scf once you log in and you go right to the desktop. And the third one, of course, is to move the tile for the desktop right to the top. And once you do that, if you're logging in, for instance, you just hold down the enter key after you put in your password for an extra second, and it goes right to the desktop. So if you really want the desktop, that's how you do it. And that's all we got, folks, for episode 21. So thanks for joining us, and it's going to wrap up the show. And remember to keep on cooking with tech, and we will see you next time on Text2.